Okay, perfect. So thank you so much for joining us on another Friday afternoon. So happy to have you all. We have some special guests today. Um, and I'll kind of go over the agenda. I'm going to be looking at the chat as well. So guys, please feel free to just kind of drop like where you guys are coming in from. It's always nice to see where everyone's tuning in from. I just want to open up my chat. There we go. And I'll kind of move it to this side. It's Toronto. Awesome. Yeah, drop your location in the chat. San Diego, Las Vegas, Toronto, New Jersey. Cool. Awesome. Indianapolis, Belgrade. Where is Belgrade? Never heard of that. Awesome. DC. Cool. Awesome. All right, guys. I'm gonna get started. So I'd also love to kind of hear like what brings you to today's hack, and if this is your first hackathon, and what you're hoping to get out of this experience. For those of you that are not familiar with me, my name is Navi. I am one of the co-founders here at Mintbean, and I also handle partnerships. If anyone is interested in learning more, feel free to message me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect. All right, special shout outs today. We have a special partner today for this hack, and it's Learn Academy. So we're super happy to partner with them, and we'll get to hear from some of their team, and we have a couple of their code mentors on today's channel. So super excited about that. All right, I wanted to touch briefly on the developer collective pods before we jump into today's agenda. So this is a special program we've just launched, and so we launched it in January. So you basically get a chance to receive mentorship in a pod leader, typically is a industry expert. So you get to build your own coding style and your own personal brand while working in a pod. Currently, there is a wait list for the pods, but we'll be dropping a link for the application in the chat. So do definitely apply for that. All right, so how does this, so today's agenda. So let's discuss the agenda before we move on. So we're gonna do the orientation, which is happening now, followed by the challenge introduction, which is gonna happen by Monarch, who doesn't typically do challenge walkthroughs. So I'm super excited to have him do this one. And followed by why are landing pages so important with Brian Benville from Learn Academy. So looking forward to that. And we're going to get to know our fellow hackers in breakout rooms for about 10 minutes, and we'll all be chilling. The Mintbean team will be there, so you'll get to know us and interact with us. And at 2 p.m., we have a workshop from Jesse Colligan from Tesla, Webpack Essentials for front-end devs. So really, really looking forward to that. All right. So how does Mintbean help? So what exactly is it, and how do we help? So we understand that breaking into this industry is tough. That's really why we started this community, so that developers don't feel alone and they have a framework to follow with weekly hackathons. So it's a 3-step system, guys. It's very easy. First step is building your portfolio. This is what allows employers to be impressed when they land on your GitHub or they land on your portfolio. It allows them to see interactions that you are building and that you're doing more than just the projects that happened inside, whether that was bootcamp, whether that was comp sci, or whether that was a self-learn journey. So you got to keep building. And then the second step is building isn't enough. You've got to talk about it. So what better way to leverage social media networks like LinkedIn and Twitter, where recruiters and hiring managers hang out? And we'll kind of show you how to leverage our hackathon projects on these networks. And number 3 is, of course, repeat. Keep building and pushing out code. Keep that GitHub streak going. All right, so how long does it take? So we typically, our hack weeks are a week long. So we begin orientation on Fridays, and the submissions are due on Thursdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. So these are some checkpoints that you can definitely kind of use where by Saturday you should have done project planning should be done and you should start building. Sunday you should continue building. Monday and Wednesdays is where we kind of bring in industry experts and have different workshops, but majority of the time we kind of leave you alone because we do want you to focus on that build. So we give you ample time to build and still do other things like applying to jobs, networking, if you're, and of course, if you're hacking because you enjoy solving problems and have a full-time job, we've made it easier to participate by giving you that 1 week. All right, so I'm going to kind of go through like how to plan your project and how to start with a plan. So start the idea. So take your grand idea and create a light version. What is the prompt, the theme? What problem do I want to solve? Can I accomplish this in a given time? Can I build part of this in a given time? So what is your MVP? So what is an MVP? An MVP is bare bones of your idea. It's nothing fancy. It's basic features that your app needs to have. It's like core functionality. Think of building a house. This is your foundation. So no walls, no doors, no rooms, no windows. It's the first thing you do before you do anything else. So make sure that you have a strong foundation. A weak foundation makes for a poor house. So wireframes. So you don't need a fancy application, guys. Like have a general idea of where things are going to go and move around in your app. You can definitely do this on a piece of paper. You don't need any fancy wireframing applications, but you definitely want to have a really good sense of like where everything on your app should be placed. And iterate, of course. So start with the foundation. You can't build a roof first. Slowly add to it and make sure that everything is done well. Bugs can cause the whole thing to collapse. So having more features is less important than having good ones. So something half done is better than something done half-ass. And of course, review. So before moving on to building the next step part of your application, take a second look at what you have. Are there any bugs? Do they need to be fixed? Is there anything that you can do better? And, of course, not every bug needs to be fixed right now due to the time constraints and whether you're hacking alone or you're hacking with a group of 3 individuals and a team, create a reminder and come back to it later. So focus on only fixing bugs that would require that regularly impact the user. All right, so we do recommend that you create a landing page. So what is the purpose of the landing page is to clearly explain what your product or your application does to a non-technical person. A great landing page will help you guide any user who visits your application on how to use and interact with your app. It's a great marketing tool for those of you that have never used a landing page. It kind of legitimizes and refines your project. So what it does is it kind of gives the non-technical hiring managers a really great way of interacting with your portfolio pieces. It increases your visibility in the job market while you share it on social media and employers get to interact with your portfolio piece. So if you're not in the job market, maybe you don't want to do this, but if you are, then I definitely recommend it. And of course, I'm going to go over submission. So submission is done in 3 parts. The first part is on our platform. You do have to be registered in order to submit your project on the platform. And this is kind of like how they'll appear on the platform itself. The second part and the most important part is posting it on LinkedIn. So we've kind of I'm going to go over the guide. There's a guide in the instruction section that you can all the stuff that I'm talking about exists in the guide. So you can refer back to that stuff. So when you post on LinkedIn, a blurb about the challenge, what technologies you use to build it, what you learned from building this project. So include project links. We do recommend that you use the Mintbean submission link. Tag us, use relevant hashtags, 1 to 3 video demoing the project, with an audio explanation. And if you're in a group, of course, tag your team members. And the third part is, of course, post on Discord. It allows that network effect to happen so that everyone can share and like your project. All right, and winner announcements happen every Monday at noon. So you'll kind of get to see that everywhere on our channels, on Discord, on social media. I'm going to go over our code mentors for this week. So as every single week, we have David Dales. He's a fantastic guy. If some of you today have met him, not only is he an entrepreneur, he's a front-end developer, a Juno grad, and technology is something that's always been a big influence in his life, and it's fascinated. He's been fascinated with how digital technology works. He's often turned to computers as a way to improve real life experiences, and as a versatile creative outlet. So as a front-end developer, David takes a lot of pride in creating projects that empower and inspire others the same way that they have empowered and inspired him. So he's honestly like a really great guy. And we have two special other code mentors. So we have Mina Chung, who is, so she's a Learn Academy alum, 2016. So she's worked in startups and enterprise software companies as a software engineer for 4 years and is eager to apply that experience to impactful mentorship. She believes that everyone has something to contribute to the changing landscape of technology, even if it's coding memes. And our last code mentor is Sarah Proctor, and she's also a Learn Academy graduate, circa 2018. She's passionate about creating a welcoming environment where anyone who wants to learn web development can thrive. In her spare time, she enjoys running and yoga. And you guys can definitely check them out on LinkedIn. I'd encourage you guys to connect with them. So that's Sarah's LinkedIn profile, and that is Mina's. So definitely go check them out. So where can you find the code mentors? So inside the category hackathon and workshops, we'll definitely be dropping a link in the current event section when the coffee and code hours begin, and code mentor support will be available. And you can also find them in the Code Mentor help channel. You do have to tag them. They might not be available immediately to respond outside of those hours, but they do definitely follow up. So just make sure to tag them. And guys, if you're looking to find a team and you don't have a couple of buddies to hack along, you can definitely request somebody inside the Find a Team channel. And this is the schedule for Coffee and Code hours. The first hour begins this Friday at 4. That's Eastern. And for those of you in different time zones, we've indicated 1 for PST and 3 for CST. And then the second and third are on Monday and Wednesday at 5. So I kind of wanted to address this as well as what happens if you don't finish the hackathon. So one of the important pillars of the framework that we've kind of come up with of, these weekly challenges is so that you guys keep pushing yourselves to keep building. And even if you don't end up submitting your project on Thursday at 12 and you really, really want to finish, and feel free to tag our code mentors and say, hey, I still want assistance on this project. And, maybe you require a little bit more time to build. Keep trying, because the fundamental principle here is that these projects should live on your portfolio. So that's it for me. Welcome to the Nerd Zone. I'm going to have pass it over to Monarch, who can go over the challenge walkthrough. Just actually one minute before I pass the mic over, I did want to go over the 3 workshops that are happening this week. So we have Jesse, who's coming in at 2 p.m. He's from Tesla, and he's going to be talking about web essentials with front-end devs. And on Monday, we have the creator of blitz.js. So I'm really excited. I don't know if any of you follow Brandon Bayer, but he's an awesome, awesome dude. And he created blitz.js all by himself. And it's a great Jamstack framework for those of you in the know. He's a great guy. And then on Wednesday, we have, I don't know if any of you have heard of developer relations. So although this title has been around for like 25 years, it's slowly starting to become more popular. And Laura is going to be talking about like, how do you start your career as a developer relation, what it is, and how to, how does developer advocacy and relations fit into your role if that's something that you're interested in. So those are the workshops for the week. That's it for me. Over to you, Monarch.
Thanks, Navi. Oh, it's my turn already. Okay, great. So I'm going to be going over the challenge for the day, and I'm going to be going over, well, I guess I should reintroduce myself. I'm the co-founder of Mintbean along with Navi. I'm a developer, been a developer for close to 10 years. The terrible display pic that you guys saw on Navi's slideshow needs to be replaced. That was me from back when I was working with a few corporate clients. I no longer work with corporate clients because I like my hoodies too much. And I am going to wear this hoodie and proudly show you guys today's challenge doc. So let me share my screen and hopefully I don't give away too much, but this is the admin panel and you guys will see buttons that you shouldn't be seeing, but ignore those. When you go over to today's challenge doc, today's meet, this is something that's going to be dropped. Navi, if you could just drop a link to today's meet, that would be awesome in the chat. And that way everybody will be on the same page, literally as me. This meet, make sure you're logged in and make sure that you're registered for this meet. And after you're registered, you have to click one more button all the way at the bottom. It'll be called Unlock this Kanban guide, and that'll open up this fella for you. And as soon as you guys have this Kanban board, you're gold, you're good. And you'll be able to follow along with what I'm saying. And I'll just wait. I'll just give everybody 30 seconds to do that. In the meantime, I guess I'll introduce myself a little bit more. One of my favorite things to do is eating kiwis with the skin on. I know it sounds weird and gross, but trust me, it tastes great. All of the really sour stuff is close to the skin and it's totally edible, despite what people might tell you. And I've been eating them for years. I love them, and they're really, really, really tasty. Also gives you that texture. Like kiwis, kiwi has that nice, soft, crispy texture from the flesh, but then they also have those crispy seeds. But something about the skin just tastes really good. Great. Now that everybody knows my weird kiwi habits, I'm sure everybody is registered and ready to go. And I'm just gonna keep rolling over here. Today's challenge is to create a piano, kind of like this piano, not so complicated. Maybe I should look for a slightly simpler example. Let's see, it's just a piano, something like this, really simple. This is somebody else built this piano, I didn't. And you can play music on this piano. So you can do things like, and you can make like little tunes like that. And I'm not used to pianos that I have to operate with my mouse. I usually play an actual keyboard, but this is good enough for now. You guys are gonna possibly make something that's easier to use than this and has some actual keyboard bindings to, I don't know. You guys can go crazy with it. This is an example of what we're gonna be building today. Now we've put together a semi-tutorial is how I like to put it. It's half a tutorial that helps you get started and no more, points you in the right direction so that you guys can start your projects just fine. And after you guys are started, you guys will be fine after you guys have started. It's relatively simple to build a keyboard like that. Even if you're a first-time hackathoner, you should be able to build at least a couple of keys that you can click on and make some sounds with. But if you're advanced and if you're really, really good at software development already, then you can actually go ahead and create something really crazy. There are examples in the links in the Kanban. Important stuff to note in the instructions tab, there's a guidebook link right here. And if you click on that, you'll find the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Mintiverse, and this has a lot of information about how we work, how we grade these projects, how you can get more help from code mentors. the hackathon schedule. It's all here. It's all in the top bar. So you can navigate everything in the top bar, and that'll take you to wherever you need to go. For example, how to plan your project is actually a really good idea to go over here and just read it, and it'll start helping you structure your week-long project in a way that is feasible for you as a solo developer or even you as a team. So that's a little bit of housekeeping. Submission deadline is on Thursday, February 25th, and that's at 12 o'clock Eastern, just so you know. Demo day is shortly thereafter at 1 o'clock Eastern, and it's first come, first serve, and we'll try to get as many as we can, but that's a fun way to show off what you've built and maybe even get some feedback on it. Winner announcements will be done on the following Monday. That should be the 29th. And yeah, you guys can follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. The links are all here on the challenge document if you guys want to follow us there. We drop more and more events. There's a hackathon every single week. And I know that a lot of you guys don't know what to build after you've graduated from boot camp, or when you've reached a certain level of self-taught skill, you don't know what to build and you always need project ideas. Mintbean is a great way to give you those project ideas on a week-by-week basis. Plus, we hook you guys up with code mentors, and there's career advice in the channels as well. Make sure you join our Discord. If you're not in the Discord, you're doing yourself a disservice. So make sure you're on there. And the link for the Discord is in the footer of the website, right there. It says join now. That's the link. Great. So now that that's all out of the way, let's talk about getting started. So to get started, just start reading the cards. It's that simple. And the cards will guide you. If you start from the top and you move towards the bottom, that's roughly the order in which you can tackle the project. Of course, you can, if you're 3 people in a team, maybe one of you guys can, or 2 of you guys can start with the MVP while somebody goes and starts doing the storytelling section. Let me walk you through the meat of it. So first thing you want to do is install Tone.js. Tone.js is a really, really cool library. It gives you all you need to make music in JavaScript. There's a snippet that we've included in your Kanban board. So when you go to the install Tone.js snippet, it's all right here. No need to copy anything down. This is all provided for you on the Kanban boards. You should be able to just copy paste this snippet and that snippet and test your code that way. If you're doing vanilla JavaScript, then this might change a little bit. So if you don't have a bundler, if you're not using Webpack, then the import as Tone.js will be different. You might want to get it from a CDN instead of doing it through npm install. Although I'm sure that most people over here are familiar with npm and are familiar with Webpack. Maybe you're using Create React App. Maybe you're using Views Create App. Either way, I think this snippet will work for 80% of people over here at least. And at the end of the snippet, you will have played your first note, which is middle C. So here's a keyboard. So I know that not all of you guys have music theory. You don't need music theory. Here's all the music theory you guys need. Your first keyboard has 12 notes divided into 7 white keys and 5 black keys. The magic words that you need to put into Tone.js are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, or C sharp, D sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp. And if you want to go and make it go higher or lower, you can do C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, where C1 is lowest and C6 is highest. Tone.js has a lot of documentation about that. You'll be able to figure that out. I am 100% sure. And if you can't figure it out and if you get confused, drop questions in Discord and I can answer them. David can answer them. But this is what you guys are going to build. It's going to be 7 keys that are white and 5 keys that are black. And once you've built those, I've noted, that the white keys have these notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, those are the white keys, and C sharp, D sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, those are the black keys. I just realized that C sharp, the sharp actually comes from music. That never registered, or I just conveniently forgot. But yeah, C sharp, not the language, the note. So this pattern kind of repeats itself until you have a full 88 key keyboard. And you guys can look up what the best way to do that is. The design choices are left up to you. I'm just trying to get you guys started on how to create the basic MVP structure. And after that, you guys can go crazy on it. The third MVP card is this guy, and this MVP card is the only MVP card that does not come with instructions. And this is to get you guys started on doing your own research and starting to build stuff on your own. It segues into the optional stretch goals, and I'll get to those. But this card says, okay, you've made your keyboard. Now give it at least two instruments or voices, as they're called, to choose from in a drop down. So maybe I start with a piano voice and then I can switch to a guitar voice. Tone.js has ways to change the texture of the sound. And you can do that using Tone.js's documentation. You guys should take a look. If you can't figure out how to make it sound like an instrument, just give it a name and make it approximate. It doesn't have to be exactly what a guitar sounds like or exactly what a piano sounds like. It could just be a square wave it could just be a sine wave. It could be a square wave. It could be just something simple. It could just be a random sound that you coaxed out of Tone.js. Doesn't have to be super polished or professional at this stage. And once you're done with that, you can move on to the stretch goals. Now, the stretch goals are things like, this is when you get to it, you can build something really, really advanced, like this monster of a synth that's in the browser. And it's kind of annoying. And obviously you can change stuff over here. If somebody actually makes this, I'll be so impressed. I don't think anybody's ever going to make this in a week, but if somebody does, I'll be super impressed, and I'll be checking for if you plagiarized it. Be sure I'll be checking for if you plagiarized it. But this is the kind of stuff that you can do with Tone.js because it's all built on Web Audio API, which is JavaScript's own browser-based API. Anyway, I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to get back to the stretch goals. Stretch goals are almost all the way at the bottom, so don't worry about them right now. You'll worry about them maybe on Wednesday, Thursday is my guess. Cool. And the other part of it that's also important is storytelling. So a lot of people, when they're building portfolio pieces, they make the mistake of building something that's actually really technically impressive, but they forget to go the extra and they forget to actually do the storytelling aspect, which is have a basic landing page, explain what the landing page should have. I think Navi went over this briefly, but just a basic landing page that explains what your app does, that gives some instructions on how to work with it, and also has a little bit of storytelling about your struggle with the app and how you came up with your app idea. The instructions are all over here. So the storytelling cards will go over those. So you have the above the fold section, the explainer section, and the narrative section. I'm not going to go over all of them, but this is more important than you might think. This is really the clincher that gets you that job. So make sure that if you're looking for work and if you're using Mintbean as a way to make a portfolio piece, make sure that you do the storytelling piece justice. And yeah, that's about it. There are code mentor hours listed on the Kanban board. So you can take a look at that card and yeah, sign up for next week's hackathon. Oh my God, I broke the markdown. Sign up for next week's hackathon. We'll be building 3D landscapes using JavaScript. It's going to be super chill and super fun. And I hope to see you guys next week as well. That's pretty much it for me, Navi. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered it. So we do have a keynote, but before we begin the keynote, maybe we can take Q&A for about 5 minutes if time permits. Does anyone have any questions regarding the application?
Going once, going twice. Yeah, go for it.
So how can we check to see if we registered for Mintbean or not? Because I registered on the Eventbrite, and yeah, that's all I did was just register on Eventbrite.
Okay, then you're not registered on Mintbean. So go to mintbean.io, make an account, just register for an account, and then register for the event.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if anybody doesn't have this Kanban, it's because you haven't registered for the event. So go to mintbean.io, register for it. And there's a link. I'll drop the link to the hackathon in chat, and you guys can click on that. And it'll take you to today's hackathon. Oh, I dropped it in, oops, here. There's a question, any specific APIs? I don't think you need any web APIs, but you should probably use Tone.js. Tone.js is actually optional. You will accept a project that doesn't use Tone.js, but Tone.js is the easiest way to make this application. So the instructions are all sure. It's tone.js. So I spelled it out in chat. There we go. Thanks, Nova GH. Appreciate it. Nope, not limited to Tone.js. Question is, are we limited to Tone.js? Nope, you can use anything you want. You can even use raw web audio API if you'd like. Totally up to you. Cool. Any more questions, please redirect them to Discord, and I'll be happy to take a look at those questions and answer them. There's a coding questions Discord channel, and let me do a quick screen share of the Discord. Here we go. So if you guys go over to the Mintbean Discord, it's a really cool place. Lots of places to talk about JavaScript, React, job opportunities that we drop from time to time. But if you have any questions about today's event, you can either drop it in current event, which is up here, or you can drop it in coding questions, which is a general channel, and people are very active on coding questions, answering people's questions. And career questions is something that is also very popular. Lots of people come over here and ask questions about software development and how to get a job, how to get your first job. So this is actually a great resource for you guys. If you guys hang around in the channel, a lot of people find a lot of benefit from just being in the channel and lurking. Asking questions is, of course, very useful as well.
Awesome. So guys, if you have any more questions, please drop them in Discord. I wanted to introduce Brian. Brian, you in the room?
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
Hello. I just kind of want to make you, give you the spotlight and a quick intro to Brian. If you're not familiar with Brian, he's the does career coaching at Learn Academy. And he's just he's excited to use his years of experience as a corporate trainer and a specialized career coach to develop the next generation of professionals entering into the tech industry. So fun facts, he's also a professional stage performer and a singer. So Brian, next time I'm hosting these, I think you should take the lead. I'm not the best host, so I think next week I'll tag you and make you host on these workshops.
Perfect. We have our family piano is currently in my office because we are painting. So perfect for this week. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Navi. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Banville. And as Navi was saying, I'm the Career Services Manager at Learn Academy. For those of you who don't know Learn Academy, we are San Diego's longest running boot camp. We were founded back in 2015. And have been in existence ever since then. Hello to some of our alumni who are in the room today. Awesome to see you guys. Learn Academy does things a little bit differently than some other boot camps in the sense that we are really committed to teaching people how to learn. And so the tech stack that we typically teach is JavaScript and Ruby on Rails. However, the main focus is how to adapt to new technologies, how to take that, how to get really good at learning and how to apply that learning, because in the tech field, you're going to be learning every single day. One of our favorite things is to have our senior developer partners come in and share that type of information with our current students. Be prepared to learn every day. And Mintbean is doing such a great job by providing all of you this opportunity to have weekly hackathons where you can continue your individual personal growth. So we're really excited to partner with Mintbean today. So I wanted to come in and talk a little bit about the do's and don'ts of project demos. So you guys will be doing some project demos on February 25th. As Monarch was saying, sometimes people look at project demos and they're like, why bother? Like, this is stupid. I don't want to do this. Where is this going to take me? What's the point? Well, hopefully after today's talk, you're going to actually understand the importance of project demos and how for many of you, it will help to support you in your ongoing job search. By quick show of hands, how many of you are currently looking for a job? Awesome, awesome. Cool. Well, one of the things that we're going to definitely talk about today is how a project demo can actually be a huge resource for you during your job search. And so that's one of the things that we'll be talking about today. And this is all around this project's project demo, which you all will have the opportunity to do next week. As Navi, are you guys seeing my slides progress? I just want to make sure. Yeah. Okay, cool. So as Navi was saying, I've been in the corporate world for a long time, but I've also been in K through 12 education. I've been in higher education and basically have been in the learning and development field for a long time as an instructional designer and program developer. So I've done everything from executive level coaching, helping executives really figure out how to help support their employees better. Maybe realize sometimes that it's their fault that things aren't working in their company, but don't tell them. If you are a C-suite executive and you're here today, you're not included. But I've gone all the way from there, working with early stage career transitioners, and now here at Learn, specifically working with career transitioners moving into the tech industry. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to, I'm always open to having conversations with individuals, especially if you're looking for tips and tricks on your job search. My only request is when you connect with me on LinkedIn to make sure that you send a message and let me know that we met here today. That way I know where we're connecting from. And that's a really good habit to get into anyway, as you guys are progressing through your job searches. Okay, so project demo. What the heck is it? So a project demo in short is basically, it should focus on showing the key features of your software system, your web application, whatever it may be, specifically from the user's viewpoint. And this is sometimes where people get confused, particularly with developers. They're really excited about showcasing their code, right? That's what you guys have worked so hard on, and that's what you want to show. Unfortunately, for the majority of people, they actually don't care necessarily immediately about your code. They want to see the actual user interface. They want to see it functioning and those types of things as well. So that's why most project demos start from the perspective of the user. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. It's important for all of you to also highlight some of your code, and we're going to talk through some good ways to do that as well. So here comes the big question, and when people are like, why is a project demo even something that I should be concerned about? One of the things that I have seen in my time in the tech industry is one of the areas that people are not good at doing is talking about their projects. Now, this is interesting because one of the most popular questions, interview questions to be asked, is tell me a little bit about a project you've been working on. Now, if this is you, the story that I'm about to give, do not feel bad because this happens to probably 8 out of 10 people in an interview process. But a lot of people will say, oh, I just took this really cool Udacity course on tone.js, and I was told to create this thing from, like, I worked through the course and I created this project, right? Unfortunately, that makes it come across that you did something in an educational setting rather than actually were passionate about that project. And so one of the things that doing a project demo can be really helpful for is actually practicing for interviews, because you're going to get that question. This is an awesome, awesome project to be able to then go and showcase to a potential employer, right? It's unique. It's not your typical to-do list app, right? There's a lot of flexibility with how you can customize the UI, what the front end will look like. If someone can create like those like Fisher Price keyboards or like pianos, you got my vote. I have a 1-year-old daughter, and she's all about those little tiny keyboards that has like 6 little colorful keys. Anyways, it provides you the opportunity to really kind of start to practice out for an interview. The other cool thing you can do with a project demo is it's a really good thing to use for networking, because a lot of meetups will actually encourage people to come and give what we call mini tech talks or lightning talks, 5-minute talks, 5 to 10 minute talks that allow for you to really kind of showcase a project. So in this case, you could go to a meetup and say, hey, I just did a really cool project building out a digital keyboard with tone.js. And I'd love to share my experience and share with people this really great about tone.js. Submit that as a talk, and then all of a sudden you're in the speaker seat just showcasing your project, right? And what's great is that puts you in a position where people will now come to you to ask questions rather than you being in that network setting of having to go forward with it. Now, the other cool thing is that a lot of people don't consider is public speaking is going to get you super far in the tech industry. And a lot of people kind of always scratch their heads with that. And they're like, really? Is that actually going to be a thing? More now than ever, particularly junior developers, mid-level developers in particular, one of the main requirements to get a job is being able to take complex topics and be able to talk about them in simply. So how do you explain a very complex topic to someone in very simple terms? This is a really great way to do that, right? By doing the project demo and considering it from the user's perspective, who isn't a developer, is going to help for you to start to build out those skills. And ultimately, it's going to help you when you're in, say, a stand-up at the start of a day and you're explaining out one of the technical blockers that you have or something like that, you're able to have that confidence and share that confidence moving forward as well. And then the other big reason that I always say to do these kinds of things is I always say record them. Because if you have a 5-minute recording of a demo, let's say that you have a job interview, it goes really well, and you've talked about this project, but you didn't really get to show it off. What a great way to follow up, because you should always follow up on a job interview and say, thank you so much for your time today. I know that we talked a little bit about this cool digital keyboard that I made with tone.js. And I actually wanted to share this really cool 5-minute recording of me demoing my project so that you could check it out. Makes it a little bit more engaging, a little bit more interactive, makes you stand out as a candidate. And oftentimes, is one of the reasons that people get hired. That happens to a lot of our alumni, where they'll do something like that helps them stand out, and they tend to move forward in the process. We actually just had an alumni come and speak to our current class yesterday that said he didn't get a technical question correct in the interview, but one thing that we always recommend is go home and try to work through that problem at home, and in your follow-up email, send your response, right? Hey, I was able to go home. I wanted to get this. So I went home and I solved the problem, and I wanted to share the answer with you. Here's the input I put in, and here's the result. And he shared that once he was hired with the company, they said one of the main reasons that they hired him was because of his follow through. So these are the types of things that can really help you stand out in a job search. So that's why project demos can be really, really great things initially. So here is, if you guys want to take a screenshot of this screen, I do recommend doing that because this is a good structure as you guys are building out your demos. Now for demos for this project, you'll roughly have about 5 minutes. Sometimes project demos can be up to 15 minutes. But the basic is to give a very brief little intro. Always introduce yourself. People always forget to do that. Always introduce yourself. If you're working with multiple team members, allow every person to talk a little bit about what their role was on the team. And then give a very quick, succinct elevator pitch for your application, right? 15-second elevator pitch on this is what this application is, and now I'm gonna show it off a little bit. Then spend about 2 minutes really going through a user story or user experience. Show off the application, talk about things like what you're most proud of, what was your most notable struggle. These types of things are really important. I don't really care about every step that you took to get here in a product demo. I just kind of want to see the product, and then I want to hear from you, like, what was the best part of working on this project? What made you really excited? This is going to help to, imbue a lot of passion for you, especially when you're in the setting of, say, a job interview. Then spend another 2 minutes kind of doing a quick code snapshot. I don't need you to run through your code and tell me, this is this function and this function does this, and that is what made the C# actually sound a little bit sharper than C. I hate to say this, I don't care about that. What I care about is like, what is something cool or unique that you did? And again, maybe what is one of your biggest challenges in your code? So when you're showing your code, I don't need to see line by line, but I want you to highlight awesome, cool aspects of your code, or what were some of the biggest challenges and how did you overcome them? Those are things that I want to hear about. And then always make sure to wrap up, summarize the app, and then always queue for Q&A. A product demo is meant to encourage people to ask you questions. And it can be scary to say, does anyone have any questions? But you always have to queue people for questions. Otherwise, you sit there in a really awkward silence for anywhere from 10 seconds to 3.5 minutes. I once sat in a 3.5-minute awkward silence. Super. Did you know that anytime there is an awkward silence, someone in the room is thinking about Abraham Lincoln? Did you know that? Has anyone ever heard that before? Now, the trick is, because I just told you that, the next time you're in an awkward silence, you're going to think of Abraham Lincoln. Okay. Monarch was so much better at jokes than I was, so I'm just going to keep pushing forward.
That's okay. That was an awkward silence where everybody was thinking about Abraham Lincoln, so I think you did your job.
Okay, perfect. Good. So your demo day, as Monarch was saying, is going to be Thursday, February 25th. Each of you will be given about a 5-minute time slot to demo out your project, followed by some Q&A. And so this is a really good kind of way to structure your product demo. So let's talk a little bit about some of the do's and don'ts. One of the things that I always say to do is to solve a real business problem, like this poor man whose red stapler got stolen and he's just kind of looking for the solution there, right? If anyone remembers the quote from Office Space, he then ends up burning down the building. So please don't burn down the building. That's not the problem that we're trying to solve here. But some things to consider. So when you are talking through a project, kind of what I mentioned before, let's say you did a Udacity course that helped you build a to-do list app. That to me is not solving any sort of problem, right? To me, that's you just recreating either someone else's code or someone else's code structure. So I want you to think through this week as you're tackling this project. What is this project? What is the problem that this is helping to solve? Even if you're coming up with a business problem that doesn't exist, try to attack it from that point. One of my favorite things to do, I had nieces and nephews before we had, our own daughter. And so one of the things that I used to encourage our students is like, if you're creating a tic-tac-toe game, everyone creates a tic-tac-toe game. But if you tell me that the problem that you were trying to fix is that you were babysitting your nieces and nephews, and you just needed 10 minutes of peace and quiet, but they hated any sort of app or game that you placed in front of them because it wasn't relevant to them. So what I tried to do is to create something that was unique to them. So my nephew is super into Marvel superheroes. And so I created a Marvel-based tic-tac-toe game, and he sat there for hours playing it, right? To me, that is an important problem that you are solving. It's showing someone that you are able to solve a problem. You're not just building out an app. If there's any sort of technical challenge that is presented itself, show that you have successfully solved that technical challenge. Looking at making sure that you're using high quality web development and design, Mintbean is going to help you in that direction with kind of some following out their encouragement and also utilizing the mentors. And then make sure that your project is easy to understand and use. Those are some things that you really want to think through when you're solving out a real business problem. Now, in addition to that, I always say an additional thing that you want to do is to create a user story when you are doing your project demo. If you can put it through the eyes of the user, that's going to be a lot more engaging. It's going to be a lot more interesting, and it's going to help you with that first one that we just shared, which is it's going to help you solve a business problem. So as Oprah is saying, you get a user story, you get a user story, everybody gets a user story. That's what I want to see in your project demos. Always make sure that you're creating a user narrative of some kind to help assist in the presentation, so that when you're doing the UX part of the presentation, you can say, so I'm a musician that's looking to create some additional digital beats, and so I have helped this individual to develop out a digital keyboard where they can play with some of the sounds that they're looking for. I'm an orchestrator for a film score, and one of the things that I want to be able to do is to be able to utilize a keyboard, but to have it have the sounds of the rainforest. And so we helped to develop out this really great keyboard that allows for them to do sound samples digitally, so that they could start to play around with some of those sounds, right? Create that narrative, create that user story. You may potentially have multiple user stories that you want to present. Just know for the time frame, be cautious of how many user stories you're going to present, because there can be like well, this is the user story we can use Mintbean as the perfect example. There's a user story for all of you who are participating in the project. There's probably a user story for the mentors that are going to be helping you. There's a user story for the people who are engaging as speakers, keynote speakers. So there's a lot of different user stories that say Navi or Monarch could be sharing, but they're going to choose which one is relevant to the presentation. And I always say, if you can name your user rather than just talking about them hypothetically, it makes it all more relatable and makes it feel more real to you. So you can even say, so I was helping my friend Amanda, and she does scores for films. And so we wanted to work together to help solve a problem she was having, which is it was really hard for her to find really great sound samples online. And so we wanted to create something that she could create her own sound samples, right? So create that user story for your project demos will be super helpful. And then the more that you can, once you have that user story, doing a storytelling approach is definitely the way to go. How to get started, I always say start out your user story or your presentation with some kind of hook, engage the person so that they actually care about your project. This can be accomplished through asking a specific question. You saw that earlier today with me when I said, how many of you are actively looking for a job, so that I could make sure that I'm looking at which target audience am I going for, right? Maybe a challenge or a call to action, sharing a personal story, those types of things. Focus on continued engagement. Think of storytelling. You should have a beginning, middle, and end. And there should at some point be some sort of climax that you're like, and this is the technical challenge that we did. And I'm super proud because look at my code and look what I did to it, right? That's something that kind of engages the listener and something really great as well. And then I always recommend define terminology, because we don't think that we have to, but oftentimes you really should, especially if you're using acronyms and stuff like that. Making sure to define those things is super helpful. When you're highlighting your code, I always recommend, unless you're showing us an actual screen reader of some kind, to be able to know how to zoom in and zoom out and to use any sort of directional arrows. Now, our alumni are very awesome in their presentations. Amanda is here with us today, and she did it, and I have no idea how the heck she did it, but like she had her cursor like highlighted stuff when she like would scroll over it, or like would like circle it, and there'd be like, you know, the floating type thing. Those things are great when you're doing a digital type of thing. The other thing you can do is if you're doing more of a presentation like this, you can actually highlight and zoom into that and make it stand out more, so that we know exactly what array you're talking about. If we go back to this previous example, you're seeing there's a lot of different arrays. So if you're just talking about an array, I don't actually know which one you're talking about, versus if you highlight that code for me, I know exactly where to look. So definitely practice your presentation. This is another thing a lot of people don't do. I could go in with a lot of different tips of how to practice. I know this is going to seem stupid, but using a mirror is great, because then you focus on things, especially for digital things. If you're like me and you talk with your hands and your hands are going in front of the camera like this, how annoying is this for any of you? sorry if I gave you any sort of, agita or caused any sort of seizure of some kind. But make sure to practice so that you know what is distracting and what is not distracting. Do things like listen for filler words. And these are some suggestions here of how to practice so that when you're actually giving the presentation, you're going to be a little nervous. So if you've practiced by over enunciating what you're going to say and speaking unusually slow, when you're actually in the moment, you're going to be speaking like a normal human being, which is great, rather than like a sped up version of a chipmunk. And then a couple of what not to do's, which I actually tend to see a lot. When we demo our projects, you and your team are going to be the biggest critic of your application. And so oftentimes when we're presenting, we go immediately to what is not working. Oh, don't look at this part of the code because it's not working. Or, oh, I have this really big bug that I couldn't figure out, so don't pay attention to that. You are in control of the demo, so you get to show off the components that you want to show off. This is a critical step here that a lot of people will go directly to what's not working rather than showing what is working. Don't show, the other kind of thing is, especially with bugs, you can point bugs out, especially if it's one of the big challenges that you're having. But I always say if you're going to show a bug, say, and this is our plan for how we're going to fix it, right? So always kind of have some sort of planned progression rather than just being like, oh, that's a giant bug there, don't pay attention to that. I already shared this before, but I don't need to know what every single function is doing. So when you're highlighting your code, I don't need to know that information. You're the most proud, share what the things that you're most proud of, the biggest struggle, those types of things. And then particularly if you are working in more than just you, so if you're working on a team, try to avoid saying things like, I did this, I did that, I'm awesome, aren't I great? The reason being is because if you, again, this is where we try to spin it into more of a user story. If we say it from the perspective of the user, you can then own and say, I am really proud of this because we were able to do this for the user, right? It is putting everything back on the user experience, which most development or hiring managers really want people that have that eye for user development and design. And so the more that we can progress and push there, the better as well. And then again, make sure to wrap up because most people don't. Provide a succinct summary of what you shared. Don't just trail off at the end. This is something that a lot of people tend to do is they go, and that is my, and then they make some weird face and then awkward silence and then Abraham Lincoln and it all starts all over again. So make sure to have a definitive summary and close. Although nerve-wracking, always prompt for questions and comments, as I mentioned before. And then I always say, make sure to share your contact information, even if that's just simply in the chat function of a Zoom demo, right? Hey, and like, in case anyone's interested in connecting or has additional questions, here is my LinkedIn handle and here is my email address there. And that way you can kind of wrap from there. So with that, that is a really great way to attack a project demo. Navi, I'm happy to share this presentation because I know that there might be some nuggets that you guys may want to go back and look at. So I'm happy to share this with you guys and see if it can be added into your resources. And then if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And with that, thank you all so much.
Yeah, Brian, that was freaking awesome. That was like a wonderful demo of like how to demo. I know that you're on time and, everyone's kind of, a lot of people are excited for Jesse's workshop as well, but this was just so powerful. There was this one question that we got from the audience.
Oh, sure.
I do want to address that. So Vijay asked, is public speaking going to be a separate role like UI, UX designer going forward in the tech world?
Cool. What a great question. So the role that I see most like developers or people who have development experience go into that requires a lot of public speaking is more on the lines of product management. So some of the best product managers have been developers for a long time, and they just convert over to managing product teams. Those are the people that we tend to see the most. If you think of it this way, product managers tend to be the people who are standing up on those stages, say during like Apple's releases. Those are all product managers. Even if they have different titles, they own the product, they're talking about the product, they're selling the product, those types of things. So that's more where the public speaking comes from. Now, from is there going to be a specific career pathway that is all about public speaking as a developer? Here's the thing. There always will be that opportunity, mainly because if you look at any sort of the coaching world, the training world, anything like that, there are people out there that have YouTube channels that literally all they do to make their money is they do tutorials on how to code. And that to me is all public speaking, right? It just is done through a digital format, and people definitely make money that way. So becoming a teacher of web development, becoming an advocate for web development, or just like a guru tips and tricks person definitely is a career pathway. I'm not going to sit here and say that I think that it's like the best pathway to take as a developer, mainly because I'm super old school and don't understand anything about YouTube. So how people make their money, I think that's awesome, but I would never be able to do it. If you have the business acumen to do it, I say go for it. That could definitely be a pathway for you. Do I see that happening specifically in the tech industry? No. I see potentially other positions like a learning and development position or a content developer position, maybe being tied to that. So as an instructional designer I have seen before positions for instructional designers who know how to do web development.
Fair.
And so they just spend all their time developing out things on HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python, those things. And that's what they spend their time doing, and oftentimes are the trainers for that. But that is more of a learning and development type of industry, and they are bridging that with the tech industry. So I've seen that happen before, like a curriculum developer that is also a web developer. So those hybrid roles definitely exist. I don't necessarily think it'll be a specific pathway though.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. If you don't mind sharing these resources so we can add them to our guide, that